All right, good morning. Thanks for having me, Shay, Mrs. Rainier, and thank you for coming and listening. I'm going to just basically, like she said, I'm going to talk about just general applying to colleges. And if you notice that my hand shakes, I take some medicine that makes it do that. So when I hold something, it'll do that. So I try not to, but I don't even know it's happening, and I get it a lot. So yeah, I know it is. It's fine. I'm okay. I've eaten breakfast. I'm all right. That's what I get a lot. Are you hungry? But I have. So we can go to the first slide and we will talk a little bit. And I'll give you some examples because I know you eat best. I'll give you some examples so that you kind of understand what I'm talking about. So first off, just some things to think about when applying to colleges. You're going to hear a lot of different like jargon, like words, and you're kind of going to be like, okay, what does that mean? So I'm kind of bringing some of that into the light here too so you can kind of understand. So there is an early decision. So some of the highly selective schools are going to have an early decision, and you might be looking at those, and that's definitely good if you're looking at some of those. But early decision is a binding decision. So if you apply to a school early decision, that means you are all in. If you get admitted to that school, I'm going there, right? So you understand that? Have you heard that word before? Yeah, yes, no. Like Notre Dame, I know that could be a big one in here. They have an early decision deadline. So that would be a binding decision, though. So you can only apply to one school early decision, and it has to be, you have to be ready to decide on that school. So that's important to note. Early action, however, many schools have early action. That is not a binding decision. That is just, you want to know early if you're admitted, and you want to get that information early so you have more time to make those decisions. So early action, many, many, many schools have it. We have it, so many schools do. And I think I have a slide later with deadlines, but November 1st is a big deadline for early action. Regular admission, that just means you're applying regularly. So if a school doesn't have early action, they probably have regular admission. Most schools have regular admission. But honestly, there is no point not to apply to your schools by November 1st, okay? Deadline, I would say, if you come across one later and decide to apply later to a school that you weren't thinking about, that's okay. But I would say get all of your applications in by November 1st. Earlier, the better, right? Let's not wait on this. That'll give you a lot less stress, and you'll be more excited about the college experiences, getting that in. And most students anymore actually do apply by that November 1st. And then rolling admission, that just means, colleges are reviewing your applications on a rolling basis and sending out acceptances. So a lot of schools do that. The early decision will hold, and they'll wait and send out acceptances at one time. Rolling just means like every day. So the University of Evansville, University of Southern Indiana, local schools here, they're going to be sending out admission letters all the time. So just a couple things to think about when applying to colleges. Okay, next slide. There we go. So there is a couple different ways you can apply to colleges. Many schools are going to have their own college-specific application on their website, so that is a way to apply to those schools. Or many are also members of the Common Application. Have you heard about the Common Application? Yeah, a few of you. So the Common Application is an application that you can apply to more than 1,000 schools at this point. It keeps growing. I don't even know the exact number, but it's commonapp.org, so you can check that out. You can take a look at all the schools, and you can just search schools to see what schools are members of that Common Application. It's a nice way because if you're applying to a lot of schools and they're all members of the Common Application, then you can apply to all those schools on one application. So that's pretty nice, right? Save you some time. You don't have to go to each individual school and apply. But you do want to check to see what schools are members, because there are some schools out there that are Common App exclusive. So what that means is if you're applying to that school, you have to apply to the Common App through the Common Application. They don't have their own college-specific application. And I believe Purdue and Rose-Hulman are still. I had a kid go through college a few years ago, so I kind of knew what schools. I researched a lot of them. But here in Indiana, Purdue and Rose-Hulman, if you're applying to those schools, you will have to use the Common Application. The University of Evansville is members of both, so you can apply college-specific or common application, and I believe USI is not on the common application. At least, am I right about that? Maybe not. Okay, I don't think they are. I didn't check that out, but I don't think they are. So, again, applying, you want to choose the best way to apply for you. And it's not always going to be the best as your best friend. So if you're going to stay local and you're applying to the University of Evansville and the University of Southern Indiana, it would not make sense to apply to us through the common application if USI is not a member of the common application, right? Makes sense? But if you're applying to Purdue and, UE and Butler and, some other schools that are members of the common application, and you're, say, 5 schools, you can apply through one application. That makes sense? All right. I'm trying to give you some kind of good tips as you're applying. So right now would be a really good time, if you haven't searched how the schools you're looking at want you to apply, right now would be a really great time to start, right? Check it out. Go to the Common App. You can actually start your Common App, and you can save things, and you can go through it. It is a longer process. There's more information, but again, you can apply to 1,000 schools on that, right? So it's going to make sense to apply that it's going to take a little bit more time than a general application, at least our general application. Again, I can speak to you about us a little bit more than other schools, but it's good to just take a look and see and ask. I have something later on, but talk to different people at the institution to figure out what might be best for you. So high school transcripts, that is going to be important to every school you're applying to. So I know Mrs. Rainier has probably talked to you or will talk to you about how you request those transcripts to be sent to the schools, but that's going to be very important. Most schools are going to have an application and transcript, at least those 2 things. Then we move on to test scores. There's been a lot happening with test scores. So a lot of schools went test optional. Some schools are still requiring it's back and forth, and things change all the time. So that's something you're going to have to figure out from each individual school. The University of Evansville is test optional, so you do not have to send a test score. But some programs, and some other schools might be like this too, so that's why I mention it. Like your direct entry programs, physician assistant, physical therapy, our baccalaureate to medical doctor, athletic training, nursing, some of those areas do still require the test scores. So you kind of want to do a little research to figure that out. And typically test scores might be able to help you along the way. So if you did really well and you're applying to a test optional school, I would still send those test scores because they can still help you with scholarship opportunities. So you want to make sure you're still sending those if you even for some of those tests optional, I would say. Essays. Essays aren't required at all schools. They're required at some. They're required for some program specific. So essays is a little, and I'm going to talk a little bit more about essays in a minute as well. Letters of recommendation, I'll talk a little bit more about those as well, but if required, not all schools are going to require them, but definitely if required. And then interviews, that's going to be more for those highly selective schools. They might set up an interview for part of the admission process. Also for some of those direct entry programs I talked about, a lot of those have an interview component to get direct entry. Not necessarily into the institution, but in direct entry. So a little bit on the application timeline. So it opens, it's already opened August 1st. It's ready to go. You can apply to pretty much any school out there right now. Common App is open. Every application should probably be open at this point. Anybody applied to any schools yet? All right, good job. Way to go. Definitely time after this, you're going to be really raring to go to apply to schools, right? Acceptance letters, they typically, on schools that have like that rolling admission that I talked about, are going to start around early to mid-September. So those that you apply early, the earlier you're going to know if you're accepted. So if you're one of those, you want to know early, I'd apply super early. Early action deadline, like I said, November 1st. That's going to be when, again, I encourage all applications to be sent. I think it's a good timeline to do that. And then general application deadline is February 1st for most schools. Your FAFSA, the free application for federal student aid, is going to open October 1st. I'm not going to go into details about that because that's a whole other process. But I want you to know that you can apply or you can start your FAFSA super early, and the deadline is April 15th. And then admission, a lot of schools, the May 1st kind of date has moved off, and it's not necessarily a deadline anymore. But many, many schools like to know because they schedule their classes for the next year based on the numbers that they have. So they like to know. And also, everyone sitting in this room, wouldn't you like to know May 1st where you're going to school or before May 1st, right? Yes, I would too. I'm still working with some students that might be at UE in the fall, and I am stressed for them. So don't do that. A couple of them made some big changes, so that's why. But again, May 1st is a good date to kind of have that decision, or at least be really close, like down to a couple schools possibly. All right, so I am an actual admission counselor, so I know my title is really long and I do a lot of other things, but I actually review applications daily. So I will start reviewing applications the end of this month for next fall. And I actually work with all the modern day students. So if any of you guys decide to apply, I will actually be your admission counselor, and so I will actually review your application. So a little insight into what admission counselors look for. And I feel like that's always good. I always get that question, how do I get admitted? What are you looking for? So I wanted to talk a little bit about that. Academic performance, so that's kind of your transcript. That's your GPA, class schedule, grade trends, different things like that. ACT and SAT scores, again, that's a little bit different. We do look at them, not as highly as we used to. We are more interested in what you've done your 4 years here at Mater Dei. Well, 3 years when we're reviewing applications, but we're most interested in that. Activities, yes, those are very important. Things that you've done or are doing, that's important to us as well. Essays can be important, especially for certain schools, and they can also be, if you're a borderline, they can really kind of help you up or down. Recommendations, interviews, again, those we don't require those, but I know some schools do, and they're going to look at those as well. And I'm going to talk into each one a little bit real quick individually. Like academic performance, again, that is the number one thing a lot of schools are looking at, that transcript. So it's a little more than grades, though. So a lot of times they're like, oh, my GPA is a 3.0, but I had a rough time first year, and then it got better and better, and then my junior year I had straight A's, and I was really bumping up. So things like that really do matter in the admission process, and I think they're things that maybe you're not thinking about. So GPA, obviously important. Class selection, so the classes you've taken, we look at those as well. We look and see what you've done. Core 40 academic honors diploma, both important as well. All the grades matter, so yes, we're reviewing applications when you're or just through junior year grades, but senior year grades still matter, so don't shut it down this year. I have seen admissions be revoked from different things, so you don't want to stop doing what you're doing, being excellent students. And then grade trends, like I said, maybe you had a rough first semester starting out high school and everything's been better along the way. So we do look at things like that. All things on that transcript is important. Again, test scores, they've changed a lot. I've been doing this 16 years, so they used to be a lot more important than they are now. But I'm not saying that they can't be important to your admission process. Many schools are test optional, but they could help you in direct entry programs, things like that. Again, if you've taken it once, you might want to try it again. Take it a second time. If you haven't taken it, I know a lot of students are taking the tests in their senior year, early in their senior year, to get those scores, especially if you're interested in some of those direct entry programs. And a lot of schools will also super score, which taking your highest. So if you tested once and you weren't exactly happy with your math score on that SAT, and you test again and you got a much better math score, but your other score went down, perfectly fine, because schools can take from 2 different tests to make your highest score. So that's important to know too. Activities, again, I know you're all involved. You do community service, you do different things like that, which is all very important. So keep doing that senior year, because we see on our campus that students that are involved are actually better students. They get better grades if they're involved in organizations. You probably see that here too. So keep doing that. And then again, we always look at quality versus quantity. So you don't have to be in 20 clubs. You can be in 3 or 2. Or I get it all the time. I have an outside job because I help with my, I help doing this, or I watch my younger sibling or things like that, and I can't get as involved. That's okay. We look at those things too. We look at everything. So again, it's more quality over the quantity. And then the essay, this is funny that I'm here talking at Mater Dei, because I still remember an essay that I read from a Mater Dei student. She is now graduated, I'm sure, from college. I can't remember how many years ago it was. I still remember her essay. Isn't that crazy? I remember reading it. I remember it. It was wonderful. It was the best one. She didn't come to the University of Evansville either, but it was the best essay I've ever read in my life. But make it memorable. Make it stand out. Write something that you're about you, or something you're passionate about, or something that makes you unique. If I have to tell you how many times I read an essay about why the University of Evansville is so wonderful, I hate reading those essays. No offense, I know we're wonderful. I know all the good stats. I know they went to the website, and I know they looked it up, and wonderful, that's great. But that's not what we want to read. We want to know, the essay is actually a way that you can tell us something more about yourself, that maybe nothing else on the application can tell us. It's a way, and granted, if you don't love writing, that's also okay. It doesn't have to be this, just make it unique. I've had them write about their favorite superhero. I've had everything you can imagine written in an essay. It doesn't matter. I like to read something that makes me want to read it. I won't lie to you. I've stopped short. I'm like, they can write. Okay, good. Move along. Because I read a lot of essays. These admission counselors, these people that are reviewing applications, read a ton of essays. I would just make it stand out. Make it just personal. Make it about you. And again, if you need to tell something to us that the application is not telling us, maybe that grade trend, like I said, you had an issue freshman year, tell us about it. That is a way that you can talk to us in a different way. So again, just make it something that is you. And spell check it and proofread it, please. And also have someone else review it. Because do not write an essay about Butler or about this, and say Butler when you're applying to the University of Indianapolis. They're not going to like it. But do you know, every year I read probably 5 to 10 that have the wrong university in it. I don't deny them on the spot, but I sometimes want to. I know. I wouldn't do that. But, come on, take a look at it. You know where you're sending it. Just make sure that you're doing that. It's very, very important. Recommendations, not needed for all schools. A lot of schools don't require them. A lot of special programs might, or special scholarships or things like that might. So that's why I like to put it in here a little bit. 2 or 3, plenty. Don't overdo it. Don't send 10, 5, 10. I've seen that before. Whoever you are going to have write this recommendation, if they know you and they know what you're involved in, great, wonderful. But it's great to send along like a resume or give them information of what you're involved in so that they can write some of that. And also give the person plenty of time. That's very important. Plenty of time. Don't ask for it if it's due, on Friday. Don't ask for it on Monday. And then it doesn't always have to be the teacher that gave you the A. It can be someone that you struggled in their class, but you really, really showed that grit. Sometimes we want to see that you've really worked hard. So it doesn't always have to be the class you got the best grade in. It has to be, but it's good to have it be a teacher or somebody that knows you. And then interviews, again, that's usually for really highly selective schools, but also I wanted to, some direct entry programs. I just listed the ones at UE just because that's what I know. but there are plenty of others, pharmacy, different things like that at different schools that you might be trying to get a direct entry into. So those might. And then I didn't have anywhere to put this, but I put it down at the bottom here. Dangers of social media, it doesn't go away. There are some institutions that will look in and they'll search you. So again, don't put things out there that you wouldn't want somebody to look at. It's important. And then what's most important, it's so different at different schools. So it's hard to say, but the reason I put this on here is you can go on websites, take a look, and read a lot of information. You can talk to Mrs. Rainier, and she might know. She's got some really good contacts and knows a lot of people at different colleges. But the best thing to do is get to know your admission counselor at the university you're looking at. So there's a person like me at all the universities that you might be looking at. Call them, schedule a visit, talk to them, ask them. That's really important because guess what? There might be a time, multiple reasons. I mean, of course, getting admitted and things like that. That's going to be very important. If they know you, they know you're interested, things like that. But also later on, there might be a scholarship opportunity. There might be something going on. So that can be really important too. Like I had a professor this last year say, hey, we have a new scholarship. Do you know any civil engineering students? Because I want to give it to a freshman civil engineering student. I knew someone that wanted to come to UE. I knew they needed some more money. I said, how about this person? I sent it to that professor. He said, yes, he's a great student. I want him in my classes. Got the scholarship. But that was because I knew them. That was the only reason. So there can be things like that. So get to know your admission counselor at the different universities. Campus visit, we'll chat real quick about that. I can't go anywhere without talking about the campus visit. It is the most important thing you do when you're looking at a college. Colleges can look amazing on websites. The pictures are beautiful. Everything's wonderful. You might think that's your dream school. But if you get there and it's just not the right fit, it doesn't feel comfortable, then it might not be the right fit for you. Because there's amazing schools out there. So campus visit is so important. How many have been on a campus visit already? Okay, good. All right, the rest of you, go on a campus visit. So important. Schedule it. Schedule an official, but I like to say this, always schedule an official visit. Go and get those appointments. Meet with the professor, get the official tour, meet with your admission counselor. That way you can get you can get all that information. So that is important. Don't just walk around with a friend. You have a friend at XYZ school and they just walk you around. Don't do that. Do an actual official visit. I think that's important. You can decide if you want a group or an individual. A lot of schools are going to have big group visits and some are going to have individual, like tailored to exactly what you want to do. Decide which one you want to do and schedule it. And then you can also let them know who you want to speak to. If there's any special people, like a professor or someone in the Center for Career Development, they talk about careers or something like that. Let them know what you want to do on that visit. And then, again, that's just going to see if it's a good fit for you. And you may have to go back on second visits later, and that's okay. I just put these up. These are some of our visits just to give you an idea. Individual visit, you can basically meet with whoever you want, and it's all tailored exactly to what you want to do. Group visits, again, they're just a bigger group, so it just kind of depends what you want to do. And then some will have really cool, like, admitted senior events. So we do something called Road Trip, where you can spend the weekend on campus, kind of test drive UE, see what it's all about, and be a student for that weekend. Other schools are going to have something like that. Again, I just wanted you to see how many different options usually schools have. And scholarships. I want to talk just a little bit about those because I know how important scholarships are, and I don't know if I'm going too long. Okay, so scholarships are so this is my last bit. Scholarships, institutional scholarships, so that means the University of Evansville has specific scholarships for students. Some of them are automatic. They automatically are just for applying for admission. They're yours. So we have something like that, and I'll show you in a slide after this, but some are just automatic for applying. You don't have to do anything else, nothing else special. Some you have to have a secondary application for, or you have to send other information or whatever it might be. So again, talk to your admission counselor so you can figure out how you need to apply for scholarships for that institution. Local scholarships, of course, Mrs. Rainier is going to be a great wealth of knowledge for you, so definitely take a look, talk with her. The Community Foundation, so Vanderburgh Community Foundation page is a great page to check it out. Your church, employer, your parents' employer, anywhere you volunteer, just ask if they have scholarships. You never know, so ask around. And then there's national scholarships as well, so you can do that, but those are going to be more national. I tell you, look local first, apply for those, and then if you want to make a job out of it, you can definitely go and search nationally, and you can find scholarships. I've seen people bring in a ton of scholarships, but it depends on how much time you have. Start local, because less people will be applying for those, and then look more broad. And there is on our website, we actually, our financial aid office has went through and vetted a ton of different national searches. So there is links to all of them, like College Board has it. I think there's like 15 on our page now. So you can check that out. Again, that's just for national searches. It's not the University of Evansville. We just have it out there as information for you. So like I said, automatic scholarships. This is brand new actually for fall 23, which went up. But this is basically, a lot of schools are going to have something like this where you might see a chart and you see you see what your scholarship might be. So again, for us, it's a GPA or test score. Because again, we're test optional, so we don't have to have those test scores, so you don't have to have both. So you see, many institutions might be like us. That's up to $30,000 in scholarships. So again, I wanted to show you that there's a lot of schools you can go on their website and find something like that. And that's just UE. That was just on there, just general UE info, so just kind of skip through that. And I do have I have my business cards up here if you want to grab one before you leave, and I have some UE information just because I never leave home without it. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Again, that was a lot of very important information. That's why we're going to send out the YouTube link. Now you kind of got a lot of information about applications, and we'll go over that, scholarships and all that. But now Mr. Fitzgibbons is going to talk to you a little bit, because doing the application is one thing, but what are you going to major in? That's something that's important too, so he'll talk to you about that.
Thank you. So you guys have been back for like a week in school, right? You all got senioritis yet? Yeah, I think I had when I was a freshman, honestly. So, but Ms. Rainier said, I'm Tim Fitzgibbon. I'm the director of the Center for Exploring Majors. So what the heck is that? So we're the academic home for undecided students. And if you think, well, that's not probably many, right? So at USI, pre-nursing is our largest major. If undecided was a major, we're second largest major on campus. So there's a lot of folks who are trying to figure out undecided. So that's what I want to talk to you today for just a few minutes. And what I say today specifically, yes, it's what we do here at USI, but it can apply to any school you're thinking about, okay? So next slide, please. So when you were 8 years old, what did you want to be when you grew up? Think about that for a second. Anybody want to shout out what they were thinking about when they were 8? Astronaut? Musician? What else? Any teachers, vets, doctors, anything like that? It's usually anything else? Oh, y'all so quiet. All right, so if you're thinking about what you were going to be when you're 8 years old, right? How about today? Do you still want to be that occupation? You still want to have that career? Do you still want to be an astronaut or a musician? You're shaking your head, no, okay. How about astronaut? You still want to be an astronaut? No? Okay. Whether you do or do not, think about this. Why don't you want to be, or maybe you still want to be, but why don't you want to be what you thought you were going to do when you're 8 years old? Astronaut, you want to get any suggestions about maybe why you not want to be an astronaut anymore? Okay. How about musician back there? Okay. Yep. I gotcha. Yeah, so a couple things I think is going on when you're thinking about, why don't I want to be what I was when I was 8 years old? One, you're learning more about yourself. You're learning what you like, what you dislike, what you're good at, where are your abilities. Also what you value. And along with that, you're also learning about the careers. It takes a lot of work. It's not so easy. I want to be an engineer, but it takes a lot of math. Maybe I'm not so good at math. I want to be a nurse, but I don't like the sight of blood. So whatever it is, you're learning about yourself and you're learning about the careers. That's major in career exploration. You've been doing that for 10 years. You just haven't realized that, okay? And so what we do at USI and any other college is we kind of have you think a little more in depth about that. What are the things you like to do? What are your interests? What are your skills? What do you value? And how can you match it up with a particular major and career? Now, I'll tell you, when I was 8 years old, I knew exactly what I was going to be. Exactly. I was going to be the starting shortstop for the St. Louis Cardinals. I knew it. I was convinced. Absolutely. Until a few years later, when I couldn't hit David Engstrom's curveball in Little League, I kind of realized I probably didn't have the skill set to be a baseball player. But I was thinking about that, and I thought, well, what if I still wanted to work in sports, and maybe specifically the Cardinals, but it doesn't have to be, but what if I want to work for a baseball team? What other careers could I do if I couldn't be on the field? Shout out some that you could be. What do you think? Manager? What else? What's that? Yeah, broadcasting. Yep. Anything else? Yeah. Doctor? Yep. Team doctor. Anything else? If we had more time, which I know we don't, but we could come up with several, probably dozens of different occupations. Next slide, please. So that's probably a couple dozen, and it's not an exhaustive list, but those are all occupations, genuine occupations, that you could be and be involved with baseball, professional baseball, and not be a player. Now, I'm using baseball as an example. By the way, do we have any Cardinal fans? Yeah, all right. Any Cub fans? Oh, that's trouble. I'm just messing with you. But you can use any career. It doesn't have to be baseball. You can do this for any career. And think about if my track that I was playing to be doesn't take place for me, what else could I do? And still be involved in the career field, because I want you to think about a career field as a general type of thing. It's not a specific one occupation. Next slide, please. So what would I like you to remember about majors? Well, first of all, just some data. They found, and this is U.S.-wide, not just Indiana, not just Evansville. But within 10 years after graduation, most college graduates are working in careers other than what they were majored in college. And I'd like you to think that the major choice is just one aspect in your career path. There's over 1,000 different careers, as stated by the Department of Labor. The government keeps track of careers. USI, we have about 100 majors. I think Ohio State University, they're one of the largest ones I've seen. They have about 200 majors. But there's over 1,000 different careers. So this idea of one major for one career, it just doesn't work. Next slide, please. So I like to tell this one. Again, this is data from around the country. Over 50% of college students who start college with a declared major is going to change their mind at least once. So if you got friends, it's like, when I go to college, I'm going to be a business major, I'm going to be engineering, I'm going to be whatever, pre-med. Chances are probably some of them are going to change their mind. That's just the reality of it. And it's important to understand that it's okay. It's okay to be undecided. So, yeah, if you want to be a nurse or an accountant or an engineer, you have to have those specific majors. But what about some other majors? What about business, political science, math? There's not a specific career link to any of those majors. And so if folks tell you, well, if you want to do this one specific career, you have to have this one specific major, it just doesn't, the data suggests it's just not true. Now, if you do have a specific major you're interested in or a specific career, that's awesome. I mean, we're not idiots at USI, at least in our office. Maybe I am, but my staff isn't. If you're interested in a career, we're not going to try to talk you out of it. But I want you to be thinking about, it's like, you know, a lot of pre-engineering, pre-nursing, we have a lot of pre-whatever majors on campus. And we know that a lot of them aren't going to continue in that major. And I think folks think, oh my gosh, you know, it's just, I'm a failure. What happened? Why didn't, you know, I was going to go on this path and something happened. No, it's all right. And again, the data says it happens a lot. So how do I know if the major is right for you? How do you know? I'd like you to think a couple things. First of all, what types of problems do you like to solve? So what I mean by that is, think about, do you like problems that are like black and white? 2 + 2 = 4. Are those the type of problem like you have? Do you like problems that are a little more gray, oftentimes associated with interacting with people? So if you like those black and white questions, those specific answers, you may go into engineering or accounting or something like that, as just a couple examples. But if you like problem solving that maybe is a little more gray, maybe a little more involved interacting with people, maybe you're looking at more the health professions field or education. When you're dealing with people, it gets a little bit messy. It's not so black and white. So think about what types of problems you like to solve. Because if you can find problems to solve, and if you can do that, people are going to pay you good money to help solve them. Think about what are your skills and abilities. And I would ask you to think about not just what your family and your friends tell you you're good at. That's important. But take a minute to think about what you're good at. Because I don't think we do this enough times. We get, you know, we're told by social media and you know, you need to be good at this, or you need to be good at that, or you need to have this skill, or like I said, family and friends are telling you this. But take a minute to really kind of do a little self-assessment. It's like, what am I good at? What do I like to do? And what excites you about the world or in the world? What is it? Because I saw this stat. Once you graduate from college, you've got about 95,000 plus hours ahead of you of work. 95,000. You better enjoy what you're doing for 95,000 hours in your career. So what excites you about things in the world? And the last thing is, I call it a good recipe. Anybody think they like to cook, or they're a good cook, chef, or anything like that? A couple of folks in the back. Okay. Either one of you or both. So you got your pots and pans, and you got your recipe. What's the next thing you do when you're going to start cooking something? Yes, you check to make sure you have everything. And what is that thing that you're checking? What's that list called? Ingredient list. Exactly. You check your list of ingredients. If you look at that list of ingredients and you think, yeah, I like that, that's good. Whatever you make, you don't have to be the greatest chef in the world. You're probably going to like the end result, the dish that you make, because you like the ingredients. But if you look at that list of ingredients and he's like, no, that's got cauliflower in it, no. I don't care if you're the greatest chef in the world, you're probably not going to like the end result because you didn't like the ingredients. When you're looking at majors and considering majors, your ingredient list is the curriculum, the classes you need to take to complete that major. And I'll go back, because I have students sometimes, they'll tell me, I want to be an engineer, Tim. That's awesome. Do you like math? No. You like science? No. We got a problem. If you like that list of ingredients, that classes that you need to take to complete that major, if you like those and you can see yourself taking that for a semester or a year, you're on the right track. That's awesome. But if not, we may have to look at an alternate plan. So how do you do some of this exploration? First thing is talk to people in a variety of jobs and careers. Here's my life hack. People love to talk about their job. I've yet to find anybody who doesn't like to talk about their job. In fact, I'm going to ask Ms. Rainier to give me a stink eye if I talk too long, because I love talking about my job. I love what I do, and I think that's typical of most people. So if you're interested in a particular career, talk to people who are doing that. Find out, hey, if you were me, what would be my next few steps? Speak with your teachers. Obviously do online research. However, I will say, not all online tools are the same. Google is great, but it's not a vetted research major tool. But there are some resources out there. There's something called the Occupational Outlook Handbook, or ONET. These have been vetted, and they have certified data that they put into it. So you're not just Googling, what's a good major for me? You can do that, but it's not the best way to go about it. Volunteer for something if you're interested in it. It's a good way to find out if you like doing that. I tell college students, get an internship. And then I already talked about the recipe list, so next slide, please. So that's kind of the career path. Let me talk for a second about passion. You all been told that you got to follow your passion. Anybody ever been told that? You got to follow your passion? Yeah, probably most of us had. You got to follow your passion because then you're going to be successful. If you're passionate about something, you're going to be successful. I don't know about you guys, but when I was 18, I was not all that passionate about any specific thing. I was 18. And I don't think the majority of 18, 19-year-olds are passionate about any one particular career or major at this point in your life. I just don't. Now, there's some folks who, I've been passionate about being a doctor or a lawyer since I was 7, 8 years old. That's awesome. But I don't think that's a majority of people. And so I want to talk about passion versus an interest. So first of all, passion, it's not a plan, it's a feeling. So feelings can change. And I want to really turn that around, that this idea that passion will, if you find your passion, it's going to fuel success. I think it's the other way around. I think success fuels your passion. If you're good at something, you're going to keep wanting to practice, keep wanting to do it over and over again until you get better at it. I mean, I'm an academic advisor. I did not go to college to be an academic advisor. I didn't even know what an academic advisor was. And I started at USI 13 years ago as an academic advisor. I like to think, I'm a better academic advisor now than I was 13 years ago. So do I have a passion? Yeah, I have a passion for working with college students, for my job. But it's not like I woke up one day and it's like, I got a passion to be an academic advisor. I don't think that happens for most people. But if you're successful at something, that develops that growing interest to stay with something until you do get good at something. And I think it's human nature. If you're good at something, you're going to start being more passionate about it. So don't worry too much about, in terms of finding your passion, because I think you can be so busy. I got to find my passion. I got to, you get a tunnel vision. And you miss a lot of good opportunities of what you can do by focus on, I can't do this, I can't take this job, I can't take this career, I can't take this volunteer or internship because I got to find the right one, my one passion. I think that's a kind of mistake, because I think you're going to let things kind of go by that are good opportunities while you're searching for the one true passion. It's like, they still have Baskin Robbins here, right? Ice cream, right? They still have, probably on the east side maybe or somewhere. I don't know if they still use this, but the slogan for Baskin Robbins, I don't know if you remember this, it's 31 flavors. So if you go into any Baskin-Robbins store, you got 31 flavors to choose from. So if we were all getting the bus and go to Baskin-Robbins, can we do that? Can we make that happen? Yeah. If we were going to go there, go to Baskin-Robbins, and supposing you liked ice cream, you went into that store, and I asked you, what kind of ice cream you like? You're going to know. You're like, yeah, I like mint chocolate chip or espresso, caramel, whatever. It's not like you just walked into an ice cream store for the first time in your life. It's like, I got a passion for mint chocolate chip. No, you have a passion or you like that ice cream because you've tried other flavors. So by trying different things, you start to develop what you like and what you don't like. And I don't think you can immediately, come up with one particular passion. You may come up with 10 things you like. And maybe out of those 10 things you like in terms of a major or a career, maybe out of those 10, maybe 2 or 3 things you really, really like. And out of those 2 or 3 things you really, really like, maybe one is going to be what you're passionate about. So let me wrap this up by this example here. So on the left, those are majors at USI. And on the right is a list of careers that we have alumni working in. Okay. So let's see if we can match the major with the career. So let's go with the first one, microbiology. What career do you think that person majoring in microbiology is doing? Anybody, shout it out. Microbiology. What career do you think they're working in? Okay, on the right, those are career fields. So what are those career fields? It's all right. Which of those career fields on the right, which one do you think that matches up to? Microbiology. Huh? Second lieutenant. Anything else? Any other guesses? Zookeeper. All right, I'll tell you which one it is. It's actually sales rep. The microbiologist is working as a sales rep. Let's do one more. Let's do economics. What career do you think the economics major is working in? Advertising, I've heard. What else? Tax accounting. All really good guesses? Unfortunately, none of them are correct. It's editor. Let's go to the next screen and skip ahead. Oop, back one, please. Yep. It's a straight line. It's a straight line connection. Yeah, I tricked you, but those are majors and those are the fields that those USI alum are working in. And I show that because I want you to get the sense that, again, if you remember, only one thing from what I've talked about is there is not one major for one career. Okay, it just doesn't happen. And even if you start in a career, like let's take, for instance, nursing as a career. You think, well, all careers are the same. Let's take nursing for a quick example. So if you're a nurse, you could be a nurse in a school. You could be a nurse in a hospital, in a doctor's office. You could be a nurse working in public health for the government. You say, well, wait a second. Let's compare apples to apples. Let's say ER nurse. Okay. But let's say you're an ER nurse in Cook County Hospital in Chicago, or, no offense to Paducah, Kentucky, but let's say you're an ER nurse in Paducah, Kentucky. Do you think they're the same? No. Cook County Hospital in Chicago is one of the busiest ERs in the country. So you have the same position, it's an ER nurse, but totally different experiences. So one major does not necessarily equal one career. My last slide here to show in here. So what does a major do for me? Well, in most cases, it's not going to, like I said, not going to train you for a single specific job, but it's going to give you the skills and abilities that you can then use in the broadest areas. Because as you go out and graduate from college or go out into the into the work field or the military, you're going to be required to have a wide variety of skills and be able to transition. It's going to be very unlikely that you're going to stay in the same career field the rest of your life. You know, I mentioned earlier career path. I think we need to get beyond this idea that when I graduate from college, I'm at point A, and then when I retire at point B, it's a straight line. From college to my end of my career, it's a straight line A to B. It just doesn't happen. Do y'all remember the game Candyland as a kid? Remember that, right? And the path was like that. That's what my career path is like, and it's probably what your career path is going to be like. It's not going to be a straight line. It's going to be a little more meandering. But that's normal. That's the way of the world as it is now. So don't be thinking so much about one specific major or got to follow my one passion. Be open to new experiences. I tell students in my class, in my advisees, the one thing I can tell you in terms of how do I find my passion, how do I find what I'm really interested in, be open and say yes to new experiences. Say yes over and over again. Say yes more than you say no. So if I'm an engineer student, go take a piano lesson. If I'm a business major, study a foreign language. Try new things. Go to events. If you're not a sports person, go to a sporting event. Go to a theater production. Go to a concert. Try new things. Because maybe the person sitting next to you is someone you're really going to connect with, be a good friend with. You don't know. Say yes to new experiences all the time. Because you don't want to become an old person like me and say, I wish I'd done that or I should have done that. That's really sad things to hear yourself say as you get older. You don't want to say that. So be open to experiences and try new things. Okay? I'm going to stop there.